Me now is John Williams. John is the publisher of shadowstats.com, which is a website that looks at inflation data that is, it tries to sort of filter out the political and Wall Street influences on inflation data. And we're going to be talking today about the great deflation-inflation debate. And first of all, I wanted to ask about the threat of deflation and maybe some of the steps that monetary policymakers took in the last 3 months to tackle that.
Sure. Up front, let me define what at least I look at as deflation, because there are a number of people who look at asset deflation, such as a collapse in stock prices, as deflation. That's not. I'm talking about year-to-year decline in prices in goods and services, consumer goods and services. Mr. Bernanke is a student of the Great Depression. There you had the banking system collapse, and with it, the money supply collapsed, and you had a tremendous deflation that followed. He's always wanted to avoid something like that. It's generally a good idea to avoid a massive deflation and a Great Depression type scenario. They saw the banking system at the brink of collapse. In order to keep it functional, to keep depositors safe, they basically did whatever they had to do in the way of making money, creating money, to keep the system afloat. They've kept the system afloat, but there's a cost to that, and that's inflation.
Now, you actually reckon that now we've had all this stimulus and stimulus coming along, you foresee quite large inflation. Give me your outlook, maybe 3-4 years out into the future.
Well, 3-4 years out into the future, I think we could be in a hyperinflation. Within the current year, you're going to see much higher inflation than most people are looking at. Double digit, as the government reports it, perhaps hyperinflation. What we're seeing is that money growth, which drives inflation, is beginning to pick up. So is the velocity of money. And with the government owing $65 trillion in obligations, including unfunded liabilities on Social Security and such, no ability to pay that off by raising taxes, the government's headed towards a hyperinflation down the road. And with a hyperinflation, my definition of that would be along the lines of, if you look at the largest currency note in circulation, in this case a $100 bill, before the inflation, when that becomes worth more as functional toilet paper, then you have a hyperinflation.
And now, what should investors do in a situation like that? Where should they put their money? Where should normal people put their money?
This is a time where you want to preserve your wealth and assets, because inflation will knock the value out of it. Number one, and again I'm talking long-term here because there's a lot of short-term volatility in things such as gold. Holding some physical gold, holding some assets outside the U.S. dollar, and then when a hyperinflation hits.
And what about, you've also mentioned in the past, I think, that Scotch might be a good idea.
Explain
that.
That's what I'm getting at, because
Okay.
when the hyperinflation hits, you'll see a disruption of normal commerce. You won't be able to have enough $100 bills to buy what you want. So that having items to barter, such as a bottle of Scotch. If you're a Scotch drinker, buy some cases of Scotch. If I'm wrong, you can always consume them. But you have something there that you can barter with to get you through rough times.